How does your organization approach talent acquisition? Do you think of this as a simple need to satisfy recruitment demands or something that is strategically planned to drive transformation? Is it possible to align your approach to attracting, retaining, and developing talent with the future needs and unforeseen complexities your organization will face? Today, we're drawing on the experience and expertise of Bryan Ong to talk about how organizations can change through people, how individuals can feel empowered to contribute to their organization's evolution, the role of employer branding, and latest trends to watch out for. So, welcome to In Good Company, Bryan. How are you today?
Thank you so much. Thanks for the invitation. Really excited to be on this podcast. I don't do a lot of podcasts, so this is pretty exciting for me as well. So maybe a bit about myself as a start.
Sure.
Basically, I think I'm based in Singapore, first of all. So I'm currently working in one of the big fours, KPMG, in Singapore. So I'm currently as Director of Talent Acquisition. Been in this role for a while, so part of my role basically would be to ensure that the company hires the right kind of people across different kind of talent groups, from undergraduates, early talent, all the way to experienced hire, to candidates from other member firms on a mobility basis, and how we actually cover all of that under the talent branding umbrella as well. So that falls under the talent acquisition scope at this point of time. So I have been in the recruitment business, I think, from 2007, so that'll be about 18 years, pretty long. So
Yeah.
18 years, across the 18 years, I think both from external consultant sort of recruitment agency setting and as well as in-house environments as well. So the thing that keeps me going, 18 years of recruitment is really the kind of people that I meet in recruitment. As I like to say, no two candidates are alike, right? So every candidate is unique, every experience is bespoke, everything is curated basically, I think, in recruitment. So I think that's the kind of things that keeps the recruiters on our toes, right? The kind of experience, and yet at the same time ensuring a consistent experience for all of these different candidates that I just spoke about, right? I think that's the fun part, basically. So that's what I do, basically, and also the ability to work on different kind of requisitions from around the world, to talk to people around the world as well, to see the world, to learn about cultural nuances and differences between the different types of recruitment that exist in different countries as well. I think that's fun and exciting and interesting. It could be challenging as well. Outside of work, I think for now I have two young kids, primary school going kids. So a bit of a Star Wars fan, as you can probably see.
Yeah, if you're watching this, you'll be able to see that Bryan's a Star Wars fan.
That's actually Lego. So it was a 7,000 piece Lego that I built.
Oh, was it? Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, nice. Well, thank you for introducing yourself. That's we're clearly experienced, and we're excited to kind of tap into your experience and expertise today. So let's get started by exploring the relationship between talent acquisition and organizational change. They're closely linked. So why don't you tell us about that relationship? What links the two together?
That's an interesting question, because I think a bit more pertinent in my industry as well. As I was saying, I work in KPMG, right? So KPMG is one of the big professional services firm, and we're one of the big four as well. So on top of accounting services, of course, we provide a lot of business consultancy services, tax advisory services, managed services, for example, to our clients as well. So I think in this industry that we are operating in, basically we do not sell any boxes. We're not Apple or Samsung or anything, right? So we don't sell boxes. There's no physical products that we basically ship out to our clients globally. So basically, I think it's a people business, and basically all that the company has and our greatest assets are our people, our consultants, our auditors, our advisors, our principals, and all that. So these are the people that form, I would say, the engine of the organization. So they power the engine of the organization. That's why for us it's pretty clear. People is at the heart of everything that we do.
Yeah.
Right. So that's us as a firm, basically, and talent acquisition, linking it back to TA as well, right? Talent acquisition, as the term suggests as well, we are in the business of acquiring talent, right?
Yeah.
Acquiring talent from different places, different channels, like what I mentioned just now, across different grades of hires as well, right? So I think when we talk about the importance of people for the organization and the business of acquiring talent, it's easy to see how these two can be linked together. And any changes when it comes to organization at the people level will greatly involve or sort of impact the sort of strategies that we have in talent acquisition as well.
I really like what you picked up on there about, I mean, and it fits so well with the words that are behind my shoulder here about people being the engine of an organization, and how, organizations are people. So the to focus on people is key. So let's, and as maybe we in the sort of people development industry would know, that leadership is a very innately human thing. And so what role do you see as leadership playing in driving organizational change?
For me, I think personally, I'm a big believer. I think in the term leading by example. So in my current team at this point of time, the expectations of myself and the managers as well is to basically lead by example as well, right? So to basically be able for leaders to be able to be at the front, at the side, and at the back of the team where the occasion calls for it. So I think if you're looking at organizational change at the firm level, I think leaders have to set the tone, really. First of all, by setting the overall sort of vision, the direction of the organization. And that's really key, because a clear vision will then help all the employees to understand the journey, basically, and the changes that the organization is going through. So we don't want a situation where employees are going through certain changes, but if you ask them, what are we going through? What's the reason behind the changes that we're going through? And they come back and tell you that, oh, actually, I don't know. I don't know exactly what's the reason for the change. I thought we're doing fine, that kind of thing. So effective leadership to a certain extent also sort of helps build a culture of trust within the organization as well, right? Because they can ensure transparency, I think, in terms of the changes made to the organization. And this can really cascade down from leadership all the way to operational as well. And good leaders should also understand that the most effective changes need to be at the operational level. I mean, we can talk about all we want at the 50,000 feet level, but I mean, essentially on a day-to-day basis, right, BAU wise, I think a lot of changes happen at the operational level. And if the staff at the operational level, the ground level staff, they don't really understand the pain or the disruption that's caused by some of the changes, I think that's going to be very hard for the organization to navigate through this kind of changes that you talk about. So leaders can also play a part, I think, in terms of proactively, I think, identifying some of these pain areas, challenge areas as well. What are some of the groups of stakeholders that's feeling the most pain in some of these organizational changes, and work with the various stakeholders, I think, in terms of providing support, coaching, training, and sometimes even offering incentives, right, to some of this group of people for them to embrace and adopt change. I think all I've mentioned basically are just pretty classic examples of change management strategies that I think an organization needs to invest in, and change management strategy starts with the leaders.
There's a couple of bits again I wanted to draw on there. We as humans tend to not like change as a sort of a natural. And that's it. And so, and within organizations at some point have to change in some way, shape, or form. And so I think the key is doing change with rather than doing change to. I think that makes, if you're taking an approach like that, then it makes such a key difference to the people within an organization. And as you say, builds trust, because there's that feeling that we're all in the same place together. It's not like,
exactly,
as you say, coming a top-down approach. So from an individual level, in your experience, what does it look like when individuals within an organization become the drivers of change?
I think if individuals or the employees pick up the mantle and drive change themselves, as we have seen in some examples in my firm, which I can illustrate later, I think in some of these cases, we see these changes as developed to be more sustainable and long-term and deeply rooted as well in the company's cultures. Because I think if the changes are drive from the employees, there will be somewhat of a culture of ownership as well, and accountability at the employees level. I think that's quite natural, because I suggested the idea, it's approved by management, I own the idea, right? I own the change, I want to drive it across to more people, as many people as possible. So I think that shift in mindset is important, because when employers stop thinking that, oh, this is not me, this is management's job. This is
Yeah.
the boss's job. It's not my job to drive all these changes, right? But I think if they can shift from this mindset to, what can I do to contribute to the firm? What can I do to improve? Like, say, for example, if I see an area for improvement and I know that there is an area for improvement, what can I do as an individual, as an employee, to suggest changes? And will the organization be open to listen to me, to my changes, and try to make things better for everybody? Because then I take a very vested approach to introducing and basically propagating this change within the organization as well. So I think that shift in mindset is important. I think that comes when we see employees sort of driving the change themselves. And in a way, if the organization plays this right, we can also make use of some of these individuals as change champions, or rather influencers within the organization as well, to leverage on their networks and their influence to complement whatever the change management strategies that leadership has as well. So it's on a really, I would say, grassroots level as well. So down to the grassroots level, I think we have change champions, influencers, telling people that, hey, such change are good for the organization. It might be a bit painful at first, but let me just walk you through the change of what you need to do to embrace this change. I think that's organic, and that's in a way that's natural. So it's not something which the leaders tell us to do it. That's why we have to, there's a change in system. That's why we have to embrace the new system. So I think all this change are driven. I think that would probably be the best approach. That means it's a top-down plus a bottom-up approach from the employees as well. I think that's usually something that would result in a more sustainable and long-term change with a higher adoption rate by the firm as well. I think one of the examples that I can provide, I think at this point of time, was sort of a grassroots initiative and approach from the employees to sort of set aside the Friday afternoon of every month in KPMG in Singapore as sort of a time for you to do a bit of self-reflection. If you want, you can catch up on stuff. If you want to, you can also do some learning, because everybody knows that, in your very busy Mondays to Fridays, you probably don't have time to do a bit of self-learning or pick up some courses or just watch some YouTube videos to learn something new, right? Could be a language, could be a technical skill set that you're pursuing as well. But you just don't have the time to do so, right? Or even to engage in team bonding activities, because sometimes, you just don't have the time to go, because everybody is so busy. You just don't have the time to bond together over drinks and food and that kind of thing. And sometimes employees are not super keen to spend their weekends on team bonding activities. The first choice, I would say, for employees as well, right? So I think we set aside that Friday afternoon every month to do that. And I've personally used it for different purposes. I've used it for team bondings on a couple of occasions, brought the team out to a pub. We had a bit of fun. We just eat. It was great. I mean, everybody loved it. It was because it was like between 3 to 6 p.m. So it's still sort of within official working hours. But you're not really working, but we are spending time with each other, getting to know each other better, and building deeper relationship with members of the team as well. I think that's something that we can treasure and we cherish post-COVID as well. So I think those human-to-human interactions are really important nowadays. And I think the idea was eventually adopted, approved by management. And recently, we've just sort of officiated this as well. So that means this is a perm stay. It's not something which is just suggested as idea, but from the idea, we piloted it, and now it's one of our benefits or perks in the firm for everybody.
And can you remind me, where did that idea come from? Was it a top-down thing, or was it one of those bottom?
No, it was actually from a group of employees. So we had certain focus groups. So throughout the year, we run certain focus group programs, right? So I think it was the idea, if I'm not wrong, the idea was actually generated from a group of young people, very young staff, from one of the focus groups. So basically, they were just thinking that I think we should carve out time, right, for us to do our learning, to do team bonding, to just be able to set aside 3 hours from 3 to 6 every last Friday of the month. It's basically 3 hours per staff for the firm, right? But I think the benefit that you can reap and the sort of return on the investments that you have on this initiative can prove a lot more than the financial impact that it can be for the organization. So I think,
and it's such a great example of a strong culture where not only from the culture that has been built by that opportunity to network within an organization, to do some learning, but that dedicated time, but also because of what we've been talking about, where you build a culture where you feel that you can approach with an idea of something that you said like might benefit the company. That's probably such an underrated and possibly not highly existing culture that exists in organizations. I could be wrong, but to hear that played out is as you say, a really nice example. And is that expanded outside of Singapore, or is that a kind of a Singapore initiative?
That's more of a Singapore. Yeah, it's more of a local initiative for now.
Yeah.
I think other member firms will probably have their own bottom up sort of initiatives that they might want to pursue or that pilot as well. But I think I totally agree with what you mentioned. I think the spirit of experimentation, the spirit of piloting something and seeing if it works or not, I think that's something that a lot of organizations probably would want to do at this point of time, to be able to hear from the ground and to be able to support some of the employee-led initiatives so that we can further expand upon them.
Yeah. No, it's a great thing to hear. And we kind of do something similar where we in Impact, I'm talking about here, we've got the last Monday, we would have a Monday morning meeting, as most organizations do. And on the last Monday of the month, that is time to focus on, is replaced by time to focus on well-being, as an example. So we've done a similar sort of initiative. And our head office is situated in the north of England, in the Lake District. So we've got amazing scenery surrounding us, so we can go for walks. Nice. And it's incredible. So, it's as you say, the power of that is far bigger to the culture. And to keeping people. And so I guess this is a neat segue into my next question, which is, so moving back to that kind of talent acquisition and talent retention, how do you build and maintain a strong talent pipeline?
And that's a good question for an ATA person, right? So I think it's a firm, as I was mentioning earlier, as a firm, I think we look for talent across different kind of skill sets, different grades, different diverse kind of backgrounds as well. But to your question, maybe I will apply a bit more consistency across the different kind of talent groups that we look for. So first and foremost, I think my team or myself, we emphasize a lot on great candidate experiences and what some people call candidate journeys as well. Right? I think this is really key, and I do see this as one of the differentiating factor. I think if candidates get multiple offers, this could be something that differentiates KPMG or any company from a competitor, for example. I think it's the onus of the team to work with different stakeholders to ensure a positive candidate experience, regardless of the outcome. And I'm talking about regardless if the person is successfully hired, the person rejects our offer, the person is dropped after the interview. That's fine. So outcome aside, I think we want to just ensure a very positive candidate experience for everybody who went through that sort of journey with us. Right, from application to interview to outcome to offer, even to onboarding as well. We just want to ensure that sort of consistency in the fights, basically. So somebody who has gone through a process at KPMG shouldn't be feeling too different from the day that he or she went for the interview to the day that he or she started work to maybe 3 months later into the job. So I think that consistency and experience is key. I think that's one. Number two, I think we're spending a lot of effort and time and money on employee branding as well, which is key. Employee branding can help an organization position itself correctly in the market. And I mean, there are 1,000 ways to do employee branding. I think a lot of companies are really looking into this piece right now. But if we do showcase the company's cultures, values, leadership in a very succinct manner, and in front of the right target audiences through different platforms that we have, it could be social media, it could be website, it could be different kind of platforms that we have basically to operate on, digital and non-digital. I think that really positions the company in the right position, and it helps attraction as well. I think that's two. I think we also do try to advocate more of a proactive sort of approach when it comes to identification of talent as well. So the recruiters don't just sit there and wait for applicants to come in. So we try to start different kind of proactive pipelines using different tools like LinkedIn and all that, right? Pipelining for potential candidates in the pipeline, having conversations with them, right, and to really suss their interest at the very start of the process as well. I think this helps us to again keeps the recruiters on our toes when it comes to active pipelining of talent prior to the requests and the demands as well, right, and to really develop a better understanding of where the talent pools lie, and if the need arises, for example, to have all those conversations with our stakeholders to say, oh yeah, we cover the Asian market and the kind of talent that you're looking for, maybe in pockets in Singapore, in Vietnam, in Indonesia, and this is where potentially we can find people from. I think that knowledge itself will be valuable as we work with business as not just TA but business advisors as well. Last but not least, I think top of mind for any talent acquisition person as well in terms of building a strong pipeline will also be leveraging on technology and AI in the works as well. So a lot of literature on this in the market on the time, I think, around adoption of AI, kind of tools that we had, and KPMG, my team, we have also embarked on a journey to embrace AI as well.
Right.
We have recently launched or implemented automated scheduling. We have launched a chatbot, so-called AI chatbot on our website. You can take a look.
Right.
She's called Kiara, very nice lady. So you can speak to her, and you can speak to her and ask her questions about KPMG's culture, values, and she'll point you in the right direction. She'll probably, ask you to watch a video or point you to some website that you can read out a bit more about the firm and what you're looking for specifically. So I think this again sort of leverages on technology, ensures, and going back to my first point, ensures a good positive candidate experience. Somebody is there greeting you and giving you answers to your questions, right? So it's aligned with the overall strategy, but at the same time, leveraging the technology to do the work, because I cannot have somebody 24/7 around the clock, answering questions on candidates, and that's just not possible and sustainable. I think the best way to go about it is to get a chatbot and to build the chatbot to have AI functionalities as well.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I mean, the AI topic is so huge at the moment that we would need an entire other episode to kind of focus in on AI and talent acquisition. But it is fascinating, and to hear what you're saying there about. There's two things that you've mentioned there that I want to draw in on, which I'll come back to in a moment. But just to kind of finish, expand a little bit on the AI piece. Yes, you're mentioning there that the by having a chatbot on the website that candidates can explore and find out more information and ask questions and have that. It also shows that keeping up with technology and being at the forefront of that space as well. Interesting to hear, going back to that human to human connection and and the kind of relationship between those two things there, and I'm still on the fence with AI with some of the kind of the ethics behind it. I'm still not quite. I'm not one way or the other. I think there's so many positives to what AI can bring. There's also a lot of watch outs and things to look out for. But yes, as I say, we risk delving into an entirely new conversation. And I wanted to come back to one thing that you mentioned there about employer brand, and it is somewhat related. It's clearly important. And so maybe we could look at some advice and what you think, what steps could organizations bring to, or maybe what steps do you take to help build and maintain that strong employer brand?
So as I was saying just now, I think employer branding is not new. I think it's been in the market for quite a while. I think it's just gaining importance every year. The way I see it, I think employer branding has always been around, but I think increasingly employers are starting to see the value of investment in employer branding, because again, employer branding is something which can be a bit abstract for some employers to understand, especially if you're starting this for the very first time. It's like, oh, what do I get from doing a post on Instagram? What do I get from starting a TikTok account? And sometimes when leaders ask these kind of questions, I will reply them, honestly, I don't know. I can't guarantee anything. It's not as simple and direct as a linear relationship in which we spend X amount of dollars, I get this in return. That's easy to understand. I think it's not as linear as that. I think what we're talking about when it comes to employer branding is that, okay, even if I spend $1 million on employer branding, does it help the firm, I think, in terms of attracting more people? Does it help the firm, I think, in terms of gaining more followers
Yeah.
and expanding the metrics they want to see? The answer should be a yes if I'm spending $1 million.
Yeah.
The answer should be a yes. But then again, nobody will come up to you and say that, okay, I'm going to guarantee that we're going to get that,
Yeah.
sort of ROI
Yeah.
that you're looking for as well. Because like when I mentioned, I think employer branding is always, it's a tricky subject. It's a bit of art and science in employer branding, right? So I think you can go out there and have a very well defined, compelling EVP employers or employee value proposition,
Yeah.
along with USPs as well, unique selling points. All these are marketing terms that marketers should be quite familiar with, right? I think you can go out there and say that, oh, these are the unique selling points of the firm. We have A, B, C, D, E, and this is our EVP as well. Great.
Yeah.
But do candidates or job seekers or people in general, do they actually resonate with whatever that you're saying? Do they resonate with the EVP? Do they resonate with the USPs? Does it mean anything to them?
Yeah.
Or it's just something that they read and, okay, fine, great. I know that KPMG is doing this, but it's not going to make me want to apply for the job. It's not going to make me want to work for them. Full stop.
Yeah.
Right? It's just $1 million spent on EVP campaign, basically.
Yeah.
Right? But that's basic. I think we're looking at the EVP USPs level. That's quite basic. I think other than that, of course, you can expand beyond that to invest in digital, social media, online presence. You can, do a lot of content on selected platforms that reach out to certain target audiences.
Yeah.
I think, of course, some of the platforms that we're using right now in Asia, will probably be platforms like LinkedIn. We're using IG, Instagram, Facebook to a certain extent, yes, but less people are using it. I think KPMG as a firm, we've embarked on TikTok rather recently from January onwards. So it's a bit of an adventure for not my team, but for the marketing folks who are managing it. Because TikTok is really quite short videos and they need to be funny and they need to resonate with people. If not, they'll just step away, right? So I think it's a very different platform and it needs a very different kind of content. I couldn't be posting LinkedIn content on TikTok because people will just swipe it away, right? So and nobody will be watching our TikTok video. So I think it's not effective in that sense. So a different sort of content is required altogether. But other than that, I think we pay a lot of attention, I think, in terms of building a strong employer branding to really actual in-person engagement with certain target groups as well. So for example, our campus recruitment team, we actually spend a lot of time in early talent engagement. So that is to say, for example, we spend time in the campus, at campus fairs. We hold our own open houses where we get students to come into the office and we showcase the different business units. We get business reps, partners involved as well.
Right.
And the good thing is that a lot of, the business, they do see the value in this and the partners as well. So I'm able to get buy-in from even the heads of functions, the lead partners, I think, in terms of coming to these events and just spending time speaking with young people. I think that's what I need them to do. I don't need them to do anything else. Just sit down and surround yourself with the undergraduates nowadays and just listen to them, right? And it'll be interesting because I think it's a two-way kind of thing, right? The graduates walk away learning from the leaders, and at the same time, I think I have a lot of feedback from even my head of function who come to me and say that, oh, that was quite interesting. I learned quite a fair bit about young people nowadays. It's a bit of that dual sharing sort of thing that goes on when we put people together, right? So I think some of this can make the firm be perceived in a more positive light, very transparent, very sort of what I call honest branding as well. It is what it is. These are the people that work at the firm. So the way in which graduates perceive the opportunities might be a bit different as well. It's not so,
Well, and branding, I think the key thing there is that not only is branding such a fluid thing, I think, with organizations that have been around for decades,
Yeah.
that employer branding must just, it's a constant need to kind of keep fluid to some extent. Obviously there'll be
Yes.
some core values and things that will remain the red thread all the way through, but there will be, like you say, there may be, and there's a lot of changes that can come with that, which we've kind of talked about a bit already. In terms of, I mean, you mentioned things like social media and TikTok there. What other trends are you seeing in talent acquisition, and what should organizations be ready to keep ahead of the trends for in attracting that best talent? You mentioned about working with graduates there. What else can you suggest?
I think first thing first that comes to my mind would be something that I just talked about. I think one of the trends, or observations rather, that I've seen in the market is, I think a lot of companies are getting onto the employer branding bandwagon, right? Even smaller companies, not just the big firms. I mean, the big firms would have really established employer branding teams and marketing teams and investments and budgets put on that, right? But I think increasingly we have observed that even smaller companies, local firms and all that, they've started to be on the employer branding, the EB bandwagon as well. So I think a lot of people start seeing this as sort of an X factor, right, for them to showcase themselves and really differentiate themselves from their nearest competitors as well. So I think that's what, and of course, I think we are also living in a very modern world where job seekers, especially the younger ones, are a lot savvier. I think in terms of assessing the companies, doing research on the companies, and you might be surprised to see, for example, a graduate even doing research on the platforms that I talk about. The research is not Glassdoor anymore. Research could be on TikTok, for example, about firms' culture. Research could be on Instagram about finding out a bit more about thought leadership. I mean, these are channels that we hear from our interns as well, that they are actually leveraging and relying on when it comes to making a decision about their employer of choice as well. So they actually leverage on this kind of platform. So if you're not there, you're missing out, right? There's the void there that another company is probably occupying at this point of time. So employer branding is key. That's one observation. And another thing which I talked about just now is really the AI and technology adoption as well. I think that realization that it's really important. We can't walk away from AI. We have to somehow, integrate, but not just doing AI for the sake of doing AI. I think that's the last thing we want to do quickly. But really understanding where the value of the AI is, right? Where are some of the pain points and challenges that the teams have at this point of time? Say, for example, after going through a process, we realized that it takes 2 days for my recruiter to schedule an interview because of interviews, scheduling, multiple schedules, and it basically takes roughly about 2 days from the onset of the process all the way to all parties saying yes to the interview. So that's like a 48 hours time frame, right? Just because sometimes people don't check their emails every day and they don't pick up the calls, and sometimes it can be multiple reschedules as well. So we want to cut it down into half an hour. And that's what we have sort of wanted to do, leveraging the technology that can actually help us to connect the dots across all these people, confirms with them almost instantaneously via WhatsApp or email. And once we have the confirmation for all parties, sends the email confirmation out to all, locking in the time, it saves a lot of time. And I don't need a team of coordinators or offshore people doing this for me. I just leverage on technology basically to be able to do that for me, right? So I think that's where the value of the technology can possibly come in. The other thing, again, is something which I've talked about is ensuring that consistent experience, again, from a candidate experience transitioning all the way to an employee experience. How does that look like for somebody going through the process? Is the experience or the journey good? Is it clear? Is it transparent? Is there communication throughout? Is it engaging? Is it professional? I think a lot of companies are again spending time to look at the entire journey to make sure that to make sure that candidates feel comfortable going through the entire journey with us, and more importantly, the experience is a positive one, not a negative one. So I think this is some of the trends that I'm seeing over the past 1 year, but I think more trends will come out soon. So.
Well, and as you say, we've talked about AI again there, and it's the trends will change ultimately with AI and technology, and the sort of exponential change that comes with those technologies. So sticking with just to focus in on that the talent that once you have the talent, what do you
Yeah.
think is the best way to develop them, like with a view to retaining them? Particularly I'm thinking learning programs that can help employees prepare for change.
Mm. I mean, definitely, I think structured L&D programs should be able to position and help the different talent groups that we talk about to develop further. I think there's a strong emphasis, I think, at least within KPMG at this point now, to equip our staff with soft skills. And the soft skills I'm talking about is not just communication skills or however they can communicate in English or that kind of thing. No, that it goes beyond that to really and equipping employees with learning agility skill sets, critical thinking skill sets, problem solving, conflict management, resilience training to a certain extent as well. And sometimes, I mean, we currently embark on a plan to, train and educate all of our staff. I think in terms of respect in the workplace as well, and that kind of thing. So I think there are a lot of things, soft skills wise, that you can actually equip and train employees on to basically be able to develop those the different talent groups. I mean, some talent groups might require a more curated sort of L&D program for them, say, for example, managers and above or people managers and above, because they do have the additional piece, I think, in terms of managing teams as well. So how do you manage teams effectively? Having difficult conversations was something that I went through as well. It was a course I signed up with in a center. It could be a small thing, like how do you have a difficult conversation with a staff when it comes to performance appraisals?
Yeah.
Because I think rather than what we see on the ground is that some managers don't feel that they're supported in this journey. It's like, I don't want to have a conversation with my staff because it's going to be a difficult one. I'll try to delay as much as possible. I'll try to hide behind somebody as much as possible because it is a difficult conversation. It's probably going to be quite confrontational as well, right? So we want to equip managers with the ability to be able to do all those things and have the confidence basically to be able to then apply some of the skills that they have learned from training to be able to have those difficult conversations with staff as well. The other thing that which we are actively trying to drive the organization is also to cultivate over time. It's not easy, but cultivate over time a spirit and a culture of innovation and creativity as well. I think, for most people, what comes to mind when you think of a Big Four is probably not the words creativity and innovation, but we try to change a bit of the image and trying to drive a bit of that sort of spirit within the firm. Again, going back to the previous example, right? If we can embrace some of the employee-led initiatives, and that idea is creative anyway. So we can embrace it, we can support it, management is supportive of it, gets rolled out, gets piloted. I think that's some of the tangible ways in which we can take real ideas, maybe some of them top down, some of them bottom up, take some of these ideas, explore, experiment, pilot them, and try to be a bit more creative in terms of how we work and how we manage our times as well. So I think that could be a way, or there are other ways in which we do it, like competitions, hackathons, to cultivate that sort of creativity and innovation in the firm as well. And that's what we currently want to do and currently pushing for as well.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing a lot of there is centered around the human soft skills developing, but also that strength in culture, which we've touched on a lot in this episode, which ultimately, as a sort of a byproduct of focusing on that culture piece, will bring trust, which we've also talked about, psychological safety, those sorts of things, which if individuals work in an organization where all those are really high on that organization's agenda, the likelihood is they're more likely to stay for longer than they would do if those things were vacant. And I think that if an organization can focus on those key things, and it might be, like you talked there about the soft skills and challenging conversations and stuff that isn't taught about necessarily in what these individuals, the talent, are trained to do. They've in their education. So that's where the organization can step in and work alongside providers if needs be. It feels like a bit of a shameless plug there. Sorry, to work with, promote to promote organisations that maybe could help. But it's fascinating to hear that those innate human skills are those things that should be developed and worked on, and as you say, provide. I mean, a lot of what you talked about there reminds me of our leadership model. Our model stems around notice, deciding, and acting, but in amongst that is things like courage, and those, where you were saying about the grassroots working up, there could be courage for an individual to say, actually, I think there could be some change here. There could be some benefit, and here are the business benefits, but this maybe didn't feel like my place to be able to say. But if they, like you said, it sounds like in KPMG, there's that space for a person to be able to step forward and come forward with an idea and develop it from there. It's been fascinating to kind of hear that. So thank you for sharing those. We have run out of time for our recording today, but I just wanted to ask you one final question before we let you go. And this one we ask at the end of all of our episodes. Bit more of a personal question, and that's if you were to start your career again, look, knowing what you know now, what would be the advice you would give your younger self?
Interesting. What would be the advice that I would give to myself if I were to start off? I think probably there could be a lot of advice that I want to give myself, but maybe one thing that sort of comes to mind amidst our conversation would be always sort of be bold and do the right thing. I think it's it's a very simple thing, all right? It's overly simplifying. Courage. I mean, you talk about courage, right? So this is about courage. Always be bold, courageous, and always insist on doing the right thing. Because I think throughout our journey in our career itself, I think all of us will undoubtedly face decisions or face sort of points in which we feel sometimes maybe pressurized or challenged, peer pressure, leadership challenges. I think in terms of making decisions that don't fully align with what you believe in. Right. It could happen, right? And it's not right or wrong, but if something doesn't sit right with you or align with values or what you believe in, I think my advice to probably my younger self is to stay true to your principles. I think that's, you don't want to be doing something that keeps you up at night.
Yeah.
That is fundamental. If I'm doing something, I need to be able to know that I'm able to sleep at night and not keeps me up at night and stuff like that. I think the courage that you talk about to stand by what is correct, what is right by you, I think that's always key. And I think that sort of forms the foundation of integrity as well, right? Because integrity in itself is not just a choice, but basically it's something which is key and foundation for long-term success and also self-respect and respect by other people as well. I think if I can give myself a piece of advice, probably be bold, be courageous, and stand by what's right.
Yeah, and normally I sort of throw the question back and ask, do you live by that now? But I think I can already answer that. I think that's clear that you live by that now, and it's and if not, we've always got the opportunity to kind of think and go, actually, maybe I need to rework on that. But Bryan, it's been an absolutely fascinating conversation, and I'm so sad that we have reached our recording time. But thank you ever so much for joining me and giving us your time. And I'm going to let you get back to your day. So thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's been brilliant. And so that just leaves me to say that if you'd like to find out any more about about Impact or the work we do, or of course you'd like to find out more about Bryan or myself, then you can find all of the links to find out more in the description of where you found today's episode. So that just leaves me to thank Bryan for joining me one more time. Thank you, Bryan, to you. And until the next time, take care.